Might be a record low attendance situation. Might be a record low attendance situation. Trying to figure it out. That's the code, probably. We're on page Chav Daled, ViYesod HaChassidus, Gershon, Henoch, Radzin. His akadama to the Beis Yaakov, to his father's Sefer, which is akadama to the whole world of Pnimius HaTorah. So on page Chav Daled, Rabbi Gershon Henoch brings down, which we were talking about last day of Shabbos, the Erev Shabbos before, we were talking about how Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai was very excited, was very nispal from the Sidus, from the secrets of Torah that were being taught by Rabbi Abba and the rest of the Chaverim. And he wanted, Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai wanted the Chaverim to reveal this Torah to the Chachamim in Bavel. Rabbi Abba was very afraid. This is what we were just talking about at the end last year. Rabbi Abba was very afraid that Chalila, that he would be punished. They would be punished for being Megala, Sidus of Torah. And Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai said to them that Adrabah, this is very much missing in Chutz La'aretz, the Torah of Eretz Yisrael, the Torah. My Torah, Rabbi Shimon's Torah, is missing in Chutz La'aretz. It needs to be brought, still does to this day, needs to be brought to Chutz La'aretz, and you are obligated to go there to reveal Sisrei Torah. However, you must be careful to cover them, to conceal them in a proper way. That the Sisrei Torah need to be taught in such a way where there will not be too much that's revealed, in order that you not be punished. But these Sisrei Torah must come from here, from me, from Eretz Yisrael, just in a way that is with the proper covering, with the proper concealment. So we're in page Chav Daled, in the middle of a little bit below the middle of the page, where it says V'hainu shebebavel, it's missing a letter. Hainu shebebavel yodim lahalbish sodis haTorah b'levushim. So Chevra, this a Torah that's in Bavel that's covered in Levushim. This Torah of Pnimius HaTorah that's in Bavel that's concealed beneath Levushim. What do we call that? We call that the Talmud Bavli. That's the Talmud Bavli. We call that the Gemara. We call that the Talmud Bavli. Not the entirety of it, but as you'll see in a second. Kodesh. Amr Rabbi Shimon. Kshani, just to read the Lashon HaKodesh. So this is the Zohar in Vayechi. Amr Rabbi Shimon Kshani ben Achaveim miBavel. So this Torah of Rabbi Shimon, it was taught to the Chachmei Bavel in Eretz Yisrael. In other words, it's not clear 100% from what we were learning whether there was a shlichus to Bavel or there were Chachmei Bavel that came to receive this Chachma in Eretz Yisrael. So here it says, Amr Rabbi Shimon Kshani ben Achaveim miBavel. Rabbi Shimon did not go to Bavel. He says, Kshani ben Achaveim miBavel. Kad ana ben inun chavraye de Bavel. Kshani ben Achaveim miBavel, which means that there were Chachmei Bavel that came to Eretz Yisrael, which if you can understand, it's easier to understand because this Torah is Eretz Yisrael Torah, and it would make more sense that the place for it to be initially given over would be in Eretz Yisrael. So it says, Kshani ben Achaveim miBavel, hemis asfim alai, v'lomdim hadvarim begolu. They gather together with me, these Chachmei Bavel, and we learn together begolu. We learn in an open way. V'hei machnisim oiseh b'teiva chasumim mibarzel kosher. Listen to the words. But these Chachmei Bavel, who I teach the Torah to, who I teach the Zohar to, essentially, who I teach Pnimius HaTorah to, these Chachmei Bavel, hei machnisim oiseh b'teiva chasumim. I teach them straight. But then they have the responsibility, and they put this Torah, Teva Chasumim Mibarzel Kosher, in a box that is sealed with iron. It doesn't literally mean papers put into a box. It means that this Chachma would be sealed within them in an iron box. Hasosa Mikol Hatzdodim, Stimim Mikol Sitra, sealed from all sides. An iron box that's completely sealed. So Gershon Henoch explains. And they did a good job. Because when we open up the Gemara, with the exception of the Agadatas of the Gemara, where there you see that something is going on. It's clearly not the Pshat. Something is going on. But otherwise, when you learn Gemara, it sounds like there are no secrets there at all. There might be parts that are very difficult, but not because of Sisrei Torah. But they're just difficult to figure out the logic and so on. But Rabbi Gershon says, Inyan Talmud Bavli. This is the Inyan of the Talmud Bavli. The Isa b'Gemara Sanhedrin, V'machashakim ha'shivan kimesei olam. It says in Eicha. It's talking about Golus, and that Hashem, you placed us, you put us in dark places, kimesei olam, like we're dead forever, like those who are dead. You sat us in the darkness of Golus, which is Bavel. The Gemara says, Zet Talmuda Shel Bavel. That's referring to dark places, is referring to the Talmud Bavli. Shesham Nistru Divrei Torah B'Levushim. Because in the Talmud Bavli, these secrets are hidden B'Levushim, the garments, they're covered. So you're learning a Gemara Shnai Machzor B'Talos. You're learning a Gemara that seems to be purely a Shakla V'Tarya regarding the ownership of a Shmata or something, and really, that's the outer layer of something that's going on much, much deeper. Shnai Machzor. It's one of the earliest Mamarim of the Lubavitch Rebbe. There's a whole Sefer. Shnai Machzor B'Talos. The whole Maimon. Shnai Machzor B'Talos. What that means in Pnimius. Rosen de Rosen, Chassidus and Kabbalah, in every single word of the Talmud Bavli. Zet Talmud Shabavel. Shasham Nistru Divrei Torah Levushim Shenirike Levushim Pshatiyim. That when you look at the Levushim, he says the Levushim seem like Levushim Pshatiyim, like Pshat. In other words, it's talking about tefillin and tzitzis and ownership and Shabbos and the candles and how to build a sukkah and how to make an eruv. Shem yochel lahastir soides haTorah levusha olam hazeh. The Chachmei Bavel were experts at keeping these secrets in the iron box. They were experts in keeping these secrets. Shehem yochlu lahastir at the bottom of Chavdal. Shehem yochlu lahastir soides haTorah levusha olam hazeh. They knew how to hide the secrets of Torah in the levushim of this world. So you're reading about a cow or an ox, and it is, and that's halacha. But the Seides of Torah, the deepest Seides of Torah, that the levusha olam hazeh that are concealed beneath the garments of olam hazeh of this world. ViYesod haTorah misurim labali hasod, and the sodos, these secrets of Torah, were given over only to those tzaddikim who were balei hasod, who knew how to cover them, who were balei hasod, who knew how to keep a secret. H. Now, all of this, Tashgacha was that all of this had to take place by way through Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And that's why we find in many places in the Zohar Kodesh, not only Torah that is being given over from Moshe Rabbeinu, but the connection between Moshe Rabbeinu and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, that the shtalshlus of Torah traveled in such a way through all the Chacham. But Sodas HaTorah, the secrets of Torah, there's this connection between Moshe Rabbeinu and Rabbi Shimon. So on page Chafei, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai Zal Haya HaMiyuchad V'Kol Sodas HaTorah. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai was unique. Miyuchad, the whole Sodas HaTorah and all of the secrets of Torah, Rabbi Shimon was unique. Shezachel has galus Elio, Zachel Atov, Amorah. That Rabbi Shimon was Zeicha to Gilui Elio Navi, in the cave, in the Ma'ara, the Isa B'Zohar HaChadosh, Uba'agdamas Tikkun Zohar. B'Zohar HaChadosh says Zachel Madregas Moshe Rabbeinu Ol B'Shalom. The Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was zeicha to the madrega of Moshe Rabbeinu. Now, in some circles, I might sound blasphemous. Lo kam Navi Moshe. That's in the Pshat. That's in the Chitzonius. Moshe zoch the madrega is Moshe Rabbeinu Lo B'Shalom. Allah Haksiv, regarding that madrega of Moshe Rabbeinu, and Moshe Rabbeinu's madrega in Nevuah was unique, and that's one of the ViYesod of HaEmuna in Nevuah. But as far as the Giluyim of Seides HaTorah, he was Zeicha, Rabbi Shimon was Zeicha to the madrega of Moshe Rabbeinu. Allah Haksiv, Peh el Peh Adabrabo, Umar v'Loi B'Chidus. So it sounds like it's talking about Nevuah, because the pasuk is quoted. Hashem says that he spoke to Moshe Rabbeinu Peh el Peh, mouth to mouth, Umara v'Lo B'Chidus, with visions and not with riddles, in a very, very direct way. The Umara v'Loi B'Chidus, it says in the pasuk. V'Chalo Olam b'Mailas Seides HaTorah, whoever is ascending or wants to ascend in that world of Seides HaTorah, the secrets of Torah, who rak aydei Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. That can only happen by way of Moshe Rabbeinu, and then Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. In other words, only through Rabbi Shimon is it possible for a person to be masig the or of Moshe Rabbeinu. The Seidus of Torah are coming from the or HaChochma of Moshe Rabbeinu, but can only be revealed through the Bina Das of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. So through Rabbi Shimon, it's possible for a Jew to be zeicher to the or of Pnimius Torah that came through Kodesh Baruch Hu and Moshe Rabbeinu. Only through Rabbi Shimon can this happen. Let's go by way of Rabbi Shimon. Rak Aidei Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, B'Soides Shenizgalu Al Yodo K'Isa B'Zar Kodesh. As it says in the Zar Kodesh, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai Sholit B'Chachmas Al Kol B'nei HaOlam. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai is Sholit B'Chachmas, rules in his Chachma Al Kol B'nei HaOlam. Kol Elu Sha'olim B'Madregosav, whoever is seeking to ascend this mountain, this ladder of Madregas of Pnimius Torah, Einam Olam Ella Lahashlam Imo. The only way they could have an Aliyah is Lahashlam Imo, is by connecting to and receiving through Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Let's learn the note Yudalid. He brings a Muvur Sefer Me'ashilach. He brings from his grandfather from the Izhbitz-Radzin in Parashat Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Let me give a little bit just a Hagdama. So you know that in the Piyut of Bar Yochai, probably the most remarkable words in the Piyut of Bar Yochai Nimshach Ashrecha is Bar Yochai Nasa Adam, what? Nemer Bavarach, right? Nasa Adam Nemer Bavarach. In other words, when it says in the Torah, at the beginning of when man was created, it says Nasa Adam, right? Hashem said to the Malachim, whatever, Nasa Adam. So in the Piyut, it says Nasa Adam Nemer Bavurecha. That when Hashem said the words, let us make man, he had you in mind. Nasa Adam Nemer Bavurecha. So the source of this is in the Zohar Kodesh. The Zohar Kodesh is darshaning the pasuk, is talking about this pasuk. Now remember that when we say the Zohar, not everything in the Zohar Kodesh is Rabbi Shimon. The Chavraya, the Chachamim, Rabbi Shimon is Beis HaMedrash. So the Zohar is talking about the pasuk. Vayom Elokim Na'asa Adam. Hashem said, "Let us make man." And in that pasuk, the Zohar brings Sod Hashem Liyireyav. The secret of Hashem is revealed to those who fear Him. And the Zohar tells us there also something very remarkable. Just to tell you what it says, what it means is, I don't know, it says in the Zohar Kodesh over there that Rabbi Shimon had a vision where he saw He'oras Atik, the highest, whatever that means, vision, Kivyachal, I don't know what that means, of Sabbath de Sabin, that's what it says in Zohar, meaning the highest revelation of Hashem Yisbarach. He saw a vision of that, and that image that he saw, whatever that means in Ruchnius, that image that he saw, said twice his name, Shimon. That's what the Zohar is talking about. Now you know that when we have that like Moshe, when the name is repeated, it's a Lashon Chiba, endearment and affection. So in this vision of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he saw Kivyachal saying to him, Shimon, and a bris was made with him of Sod Hashem Liyireyav, that whoever wants to enter into this world of Sod Hashem, of the secrets of Hashem, the only way that he's able to ascend in that world of Sod Hashem is derech, by way of that Seder that was given over to you. That was given over to you, Rabbi Shimon. And then the Zohar goes on to talk about the significance of the name Shimon from Koach HaShmiya, the ability, the Koach to hear, to listen, and that Rabbi Shimon was given over the secrets of Torah. The Zohar says over there, the Sod Udnin de Shechina, that he somehow has this koach that's called Udnin de Shechina, which means the ears of the Shechina. Rabbi Shimon's Metzias is from that koach that's called the ears Udnin de Shechina, and that's why his name is Shimon, to listen. Shimon, to hear, to listen. That's what the Zohar is talking about over there. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. So explains that came Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai Yan ki hay mishevet Shimon. That Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai came from Shevet Shimon. Hayu bo divrei Torah amukim kamo b'Moshe Rabbeinu l'shalom. Now, in the world of Izhbitz-Radzin, there's a lot on Shevet Shimon, who Shimon was, and Shevet Shimon. There's a lot. And in the world of Pnimius Torah, Shimon ben Yaakov has a very, very major place. I had a call a week or two ago from some new parents, Baruch Hashem, that had a little baby boy, and they had a grandfather or something whose name was Shimon, and the mother and father were on the phone with me, and they were asking. They said they had this grandfather who passed away a few years ago, and his name was Shimon, and they wanted to know if it's okay to give the name Shimon. So I didn't know what to ask him. I said, "That's your grandfather's name. So what's wrong?" Sure, it's beautiful. So listen, he said, "Well, the girl says, Shimon, there were problems there with his brother and with Shem, and I couldn't believe it." I said, big things are going on over there, but you must have realized that over the years people have named their children Shimon, and very fine Jews like Shimon bar Yochai and others have carried the name with great pride. So we have somebody now, like in the 5 towns in 2020. I sure hope they're not listening to this. That, and I don't mean it to put you down if you are. You love your baby and you want everything to be good, but sof kol sof, Shimon ben Yaakov. So, and there's a special thing since Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, as Chazal tell us, to name a baby after Shimon bar Yochai, and especially if you could do that in Meron. It's a very big thing. That they would name the children Shimon. So, Yan Hayim Shevet Shimon. Shimon is a very important person, tzaddik, in the world of Pnimius. Again, when we're reading about what we read about Shimon is only the outer layer. So Amukim Kamay Moshe Rabbeinu l'shalom. And Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai had, he says, because he was from Shevet Shimon, and his name was Shimon, he had very deep secrets like Moshe Rabbeinu. And his bar Davar bar Chava b'Sefer Henoch. And Rabbi Gershon Henoch explains this also in his Sefer Henoch, which is on the Zohar. This is what he is saying over there, Rabbi Gershon Henoch. Binyan Loshen Zon HaKodesh B'Bereishis Posach Hahu Sabbath the Sabbath V'Am Shimon Shimon. That's what I was talking about before, about the Zohar Kodesh and Parshas Bereishis, where the Sabbath, the ancient one, the old one, called out and said Shimon, Shimon, said his name twice, Shimon, Shimon. Umaz b'shekfi Kabbalah Seinu zeh ha'inyan hu reishis tikuna shel Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. So Gershon Henoch says that according to our Masorah, our Kabbalah, this was the beginning of the Hisgalus. This encounter between Rabbi Shimon and Saba de Sabin, the grandfather of grandfathers, whatever that means. This encounter was the beginning of the Tikkun of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Was the beginning of the Hisgalus, of the Giluyim, of the revelations of Pnimis Torah to Rabbi Shimon. Shekarlo Ma'atika Kadisha Shimon Shimon. It's from the highest madrega. It's called Atika Kadisha. That's the madrega that was revealed by Kriyas Yamsuf. In the parasha. What are you screaming out? That at that time of when they were standing by Yamsuf, there was his galus of Atika, that highest madrega of Kesef, Atika Kadisha. There was no Indian of davening there. It's just go. And then even a Shif Chalayam, even a maidservant, had Giluim that were greater than Yecheskel Navi. That madrega was madrega of Atika Kadisha. So this was the madrega that was revealed to Rabbi Shimon and called him twice Shimon, Shimon. Umash v'zayis l'ni Moshe Rabbeinu l'sham shebay nemar Moshe Moshe d'loi pasik. And the Zohar compares this call of that Atika Kadisha to Rabbi Shimon to how Moshe Rabbeinu was called upon by Hashem in such a way of Moshe Moshe d'loi pasik, without any comma, without any psik in between. Moshe Moshe, not Moshe and then Moshe, Moshe Moshe. Also, Shimon Shimon. There's a very big difference if there's a comma in between, even though it's not written, but if there's a psik in between, like we have the truck. And there's a very big difference if it would be Moshe, psik, Esnachta, and Moshe. It wasn't. It's Moshe Moshe. That's unique. So same thing by Shimon, Shimon Shimon, without any break in between the two names. That the kriya of the name of Moshe Rabbeinu was taken by Shlomo. It was in a way of shleimus. That's why there was nothing in between. There's the higher Moshe and there's the lower Moshe. Higher case Moshe and lower case Moshe. Higher case Moshe is Moshe Rabbeinu Shemayim, Nishmas Moshe, whatever that is, and then there's Moshe Rabbeinu what in this world. And there's no interruption between those two. It's Moshe Moshe, above and below. Not without anything covered in between the higher case Moshe and the lower case Moshe. And this is by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Shimon, Shimon. So the interruption between the higher world and the lower world, between higher case and lower case, was deleted by Rabbi Shimon, like by Moshe Rabbeinu. In that way, that's it, the two of them. That's it. Hine Yedua Sha'ar Rabbi Shimon Hayni Tzitz Moshe Rabbeinu Shalom. We're taught, we know from the Sha'ar Gilgulim and from the Zohar Kodesh that Rabbi Shimon himself had within him Moshe Rabbeinu. He was Nitzaitz of Moshe Rabbeinu. That's referring to his hasagas of what he understood. And the truth is, the Zohar says there's pashtus of Moshe, there's a pashtus of Moshe Rabbeinu, b'chol dar v'dar. In every generation, there are tzaddikim who have a nitzaitz of Moshe Rabbeinu. There's pashtus of Moshe Rabbeinu is b'chol dar v'dar. In every generation, there are those tzaddikim that have this pashtus of Moshe Rabbeinu. So in that way, Rabbi Shimon wasn't necessarily unique. That's the pashtus of Moshe Rabbeinu is b'chol dar v'dar. B'chol tzaddik v'chacham v'sasik b'raisa. Every tzaddik and chacham that's misasik b'raisa in Torah in a deep way, there's this pashtus of Moshe Rabbeinu. That's even for those whose asik in Torah is just benigla in the revealed Torah. There's this pashtus of Moshe Rabbeinu's seichel, of the mind of Moshe Rabbeinu, of the hasagas of Moshe Rabbeinu, b'chol dor v'dor, and by all these tzaddikim throughout the generations that are learning Torah in the deepest way. When I say again, it doesn't mean that they're learning necessarily pnimius, but they're learning Torah lishma. They're learning Torah lishma. Kol shekain, Rabbi Shimon. Kol shekain, how much more so? Rabbi Shimon, shenimsu lo kol seidus haTorah. So by Rabbi Shimon, it's something different. Of course, there's a pashtus of Moshe Rabbeinu, but that relationship, that connection between Moshe Rabbeinu and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is different than all the other tzaddikim. That's unique. Masuk Gershon, Loshen Hazar Kodesh, Kutshabichu Yoiv Haidel Butzini Kaddish Rabbi Shimon. That the Zohar Kodesh tells us that Kodesh Baruch Hu gave this over to the Butzini Kaddish, to the holy light. That's Rabbi Shimon. Olav Ksiv Peh El Peh Adaber Boy Umar V'Lo B'Chidus. Then it says, very amazing, that the Lashon that it says by Moshe Rabbeinu, that Hashem spoke to him Peh El Peh, Umar Lo B'Chidus, with a clear Mara, with a clear vision, Lo B'Chidus, not with any riddles. V'Hainu Shekol Soidus HaTorah Nischadshu Ayado. All the secrets of Torah were Mischadish, were once again brought into the world to be taught to the world, Davka through Rabbi Shimon. There's no other Beis HaMedrash. It must come through Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. That is the line of Moshe Rabbeinu. Again, we were already learning from Moshe Rabbeinu. Of course, there were those that were holding on to these secrets. But from the time of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and his way of teaching it, it must go through Rabbi Shimon. Everything goes through Rabbi Shimon. Shekol such a Torah Nischadshu Ayado Shiur B'Lashono HaKodesh K'fi Shesidra Rabbi Shimon. That from then on, all the secrets of Torah would be brought into the world through the Lashon HaKodesh, according to how they were set up by Rabbi Shimon. Mitzad Hasagoso Zoch LeBchinas Moshe Rabbeinu Shalom. Mitzad his Hasagis. Again, not Nevuah is something else, but Mitzad his Hasagis, his understanding, he was Zoch to the Bechin of Moshe Rabbeinu. That's what he explains there, Gershon. In Tesvav, It says in Pasuk, Hashem nosen li loshon limudim. Hashem has given me a language, a tongue, a language limudim that's proficient to teach. Mavur b'tefresach hanuchi. Next page on the bottom. Kedisa b'kisvei Arizal. Shem zocha adam she's dabik bo nishmas tzadik. Yiske lechadish rozen deraisa. Arizal says that if a person is zeicha to have a connection to the neshama of a tzaddik, that a spark of a tzaddik enters into this person. Because if the person is learning Torah Lishma, and he puts his heart and soul into learning Torah Lishma, day and night, learning and learning and learning, he could be zeicha to a nitzaitz, a spark of the neshama of a certain tzaddik, whoever that tzaddik is, the neshama of a tzaddik, and through that yizkel chadish rozen deraisa, he could be zeicha to experience a revelation of new ideas and rozen deraisa, but all of them are traced back and come to the lashon of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. The lashon of everything comes to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Top of page Chavav. Uchad Mitzrayim Zohar Kodesh. And the Zohar Kodesh concludes over there. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai miyom shebar Kadosh Baruch Hu olam min yom debara alma, from the day that Hashem created the world. HaEmuna lifnei Kadosh Baruch Hu. HaEmuna was there by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The neshama of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was, all of our neshamas were by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but obviously when it says that, it means there were those that were closer and those that were further, whatever that means. But it was Muchan, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, miyom shebara Kadosh Baruch Hu olam HaEmuna lifnei Kadosh Baruch Hu, was Muchan lifnei Kadosh Baruch Hu. V'nimtza imo, whatever that means. That Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was from the day of Nasa Adam Nema Baburecha. Nasa Adam. Like, Nasa Adam. Let us make man. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was sitting Kivyochel next to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, V'nimtza imo, HaKadosh Baruch Hu kara oiso b'shma. HaKadosh Baruch Hu called him by his name. Called him Shimon. It was Al Yoda. Rabbi Shimon experienced this again in this world when he had that vision of Atika Kadisha, Shimon. But that was something that he experienced before he came into this world. He already had that. Shes galus divrei Torah and his galus Rabbi Shimon. He his galus a Torah shebasav. And in that way, this galus of the Torah of this Torah of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai is a bechina, is a madrega of Torah shebasav. Of course, even though it's not Torah's Moshe, but it's a bechina of Torah shebasav. Again, this Moshe ben Rabbi Shimon connection. He is galus, it's the madrega of Torah shebasav. She'ein dover b'olam, because of course initially none of this was yet written as we have the Zohar Kodesh in writing. But it's a bechina of his galus Torah shebasav. She'ein dover b'olam she'achutz min haTorah. In the same way that there's nothing in creation, there's nothing that exists outside of the Torah. Everything that exists, down to the tiniest little amoeba, molecule, whatever, has a place that it can be found in Torah. That's the inyan of Torah shebasav. Sha'kol min haTorah. So it is with the Torah of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. It's one hemshech, Torah shebasav, of Moshe Rabbeinu, and the Seidus HaTorah, the Pnimis HaTorah of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. Now over here, there's a Maimer Musgar until page Lamed, which means it's off topic, and I decided it would be kedai to go straight to page Lamed, because this takes us very much to a different place, and since if we'd be learning this every day, we could just go through it, and we'd be able to handle it. But since we're doing this once a week, it would take us away for a long time. So it's like in parentheses. So go to page Lamed. You're welcome to try it over Shabbos, but again, it's page Lamed. So here Rabbi Gershon Henoch continues on with the ishtalshlus of Pnimis Torah in the middle of the page. Bekachem divrei Rabbi Shimon, and these are the words of Rabbi Shimon. Anan orcha daraisa naktina. I am teaching you the path of Torah. Rabbi Shimon posach v'gila shekol hasoidus ein ban Torah. Rabbi Shimon, the whole inyan of what Rabbi Shimon was doing, he was the one who opened this up and revealed to us that all of the soidus, all of the secrets of creation, of everything that exists, everything, hein ban Torah. It's all in the Torah. V'lo heir Hashem Yisbarach, and Hashem opened Rabbi Shimon's eyes to see. Shemotza bat Torah, Rabbi Shimon was able to see in the Torah, in Torah shebasav. That's the meaning of it being a hemshech. It wasn't that he wrote any Torah shebasav. That through Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, we now are able to see what's hidden in Torah shebasav. Hashem showed Rabbi Shimon how all of his names, Hashem's names, like the Ramban writes in his Agdama, that the Torah is from Bereshis till the Einik Yisrael. The whole Torah is Hashem's names. It's all names of Hashem. We read different words, but it's all names of Hashem. And Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai knew this, and he knew how to read the Torah in such a way. Kol Hashemis, Kinuyim, the names, and the different names, Shemis and Kinuyim, and the Heicholos are different chambers. Heicholos, chambers. V'lo heir Hashem Yisbarach shemotza bat Torah kol Hashemis Kinuyim v'Heicholos v'kol seder ishtalshlus olamis, and Hashem revealed to Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai how the whole seder of how all worlds were created, the seder of ishtalshlus olamis, how the worlds came to be, v'hasfiras, and the spheres, V'shemus HaKadoshim sheyotzim Psukei HaTorah, and how all the names of Hashem can be read and are read and seen in the Psukim of the Torah. V'shemus HaMalachim, the names of all of the Malachim of the angels. Kedisi b'Tikunei HaZohar, as it says in Tikunei HaZohar. She'ein shum malach, she'ein lo pasuk kosa b'Torah. That every single malach has his name hidden in a pasuk of the Torah that's found in the Torah itself. Everything's in the Torah. All the secrets of creation, all the names of Hashem, all the names of the malachim, all of the spheres, all the secrets of how all worlds were created are found in the Torah. Ki be'elu habraises lo niska behem ha'Torah. There are certain these braises, I mean these secrets, these Torahs are not spelled out in the Torah. Klo nesiastu al psukei Torah. Now he's speaking here about certain teachings that we were discussing, that Rabbi Gershon was talking about at the beginning of the Hagdama. As you recall, there was Sefer from the beginning of time. We mentioned the Sefer of Adam Harishon, right? We spoke about. There was a Sefer of Henoch. There were certain Sefarim that were in the possession of tzaddikim before Matan Torah, before Maimon Sinai. Now these are called brises outside of Torah. Lo niska behem mehaTorah. Kilo nesiasto al psukei Torah. Now these svarim, these teachings, are not mentioned in our Torah, and they're not based upon, or they're not hinted at or based upon the psukim of the Torah Shebachsav. Because the shorish of those books are before Matan Torah. It's not Torah Moshe. Rabbi Shimon, Hey HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Sha'akol Hu b'HaTorah. And only from the days of Rabbi Shimon, so from those earlier Svarim, it was not possible to understand all the secrets of creation and so on. It was not possible. Only through this connection between Rabbi Shimon and Torah Moshe. Mimois Rabbi Shimon, Hey HaKadosh Baruch Hu, only from the time of Rabbi Shimon, Hey HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Sha'akol Hu b'HaTorah, that everything is to be found in the Torah. Everything is found in the Torah. Lochen Yisib is our Kodesh, and that's what it says in Zohar Kodesh. Kol elu sha'olim b'madregosav, as we learned just a few minutes ago. Whoever wants to ascend these madregas, einem olam elo lahashlim imo. You're only able to do that together with Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. Only in that way of going together with Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai.
Isn't that contrary to Adam HaRishon was the biggest, and we're only going down, we're not going up? There was Shimon had a rise up from where we were.
Yeah. In Panemius, things are going up, not down. We spoke about that many times, and we're not going to go into that right now. But in Chitzonius, things are going down, but in Panemius, things are going up. That's why your grandfather wasn't sitting in the classroom asking that question, right? He wasn't learning. So
it just so happened that my mother's father did learn so.
I'm not saying it wasn't. That's good, Baruch Hashem. So then that's an exception. So, but even so, what I mean by that is that your grandfather was on a madrega where he was prepared to learn Zohar Kodesh. Mm-hmm. You and I are not. Okay. And yet we're living at a time where these Giluyim are now being able to be revealed to the generation before Mashiach comes. So on the one hand, there were individuals, we've spoken about this many times, the individuals were on a greater madrega, they were greater people. But as far as Am Yisrael is concerned, as Rabbi Tzaddik explains in other tzaddikim, in terms of the Kudas Halev, the deeper point of the heart, there's a madrega that's being revealed now that's higher than ever before. So it works both ways. But I'm not going to I'm not going to go into this now. This is a very big subject. So of course, Adam Rishon in one respect was the greatest that there ever was. But on the other end of the spectrum, there's nobody like Mashiach Tzidkenu all the way at the end.
Oh.
So that's not for now, but it's a good question, but that's a very big subject. But in Pneumius, the world is going higher and higher. The world is evolving. In Chitzonius, things are getting lower and lower, and in Pneumius, things are going higher and higher. We'll be able to learn this piece of the Zohar Kodesh. It wouldn't make sense to start this now because it's complicated. So we'll stop here, and we'll continue. We'll continue with the Afmat Sheniska.
Those things we did 10 years ago about